Hello, welcome to a new vlog. The gardener next door literally just stopped now. So I'm like, do I go back and film the other wrap up or am I just gonna leave it? We'll see. If you heard the background noise, you know that I couldn't be bothered doing it again. And I don't like doing things twice because then the second time it feels inorganic. It doesn't feel off the cuff. I don't like rehearsing what I'm going to say. I just like jabbering as I go, which probably isn't the best. It's probably not giving you the most meticulous, well-informed, thought-out reviews, but that's just the way I prefer to roll. I don't like writing it out or scripting. So this week, probably going to be my last vlog besides the wild ones and the DNF one. I am just going to read whatever comes in at the library. And I have read some books, so let me tell you what I've read so far. So I started with Wisteria by Adeline Grace. This is the third book in their series. And it's a bit of a sort of gothic mystery fantasy book. There is a wealthy family and they have different powers and there are different beings in this. So for instance, there is death, there is fate, there is chaos. And they have all sort of come together in a way. So obviously being the third, I cannot tell you the exact plot. It would be giving it away, but it focuses on two characters and I guess you would say their love story. It's meant to be sort of almost like a star-crossed lovers thing, but I didn't enjoy it. In the beginning, it's a sort of marriage of convenience and they supposedly can't stand each other, so they're constantly sniping away. Oh, they started again. Sorry. And then for me, that was a bit too much. There is enemies to lovers, but this was just insufferable people to lovers. And it goes that way until all of a sudden they can't keep their hands off each other. So it was very rapid, it was slow, and then boom, we've crossed over now into ravenously devouring each other, and we just, oh my god, the pulleys are describable. Previously they didn't even mention any sort of attraction, any sort of pull, but all of a sudden can't keep their hands off each other. So because I didn't enjoy the couple in this, I didn't really enjoy the book because they are the focus. So if you love them, you will love the book. For me, the book did end up being a 3-star. I found some issues with everything, with the pacing and the plot line. It just felt very uneven, like a cobblestone road. And things would be slow and then fast and then slow. And then everything happens at the end. Like literally the majority of the plot is right at the end. It's the end piece of bread. And I thought, well, that's a choice. You've made us like slog through everything just to finally get some. Oh my god, you're so cute. I love you so much. I love you so. I love my cats. Oh, my little cat babies. Hey. Hey, my cat kids. Oh, another one's coming. Hey, Sylvie. This is Bluebell or Bubbles or Blue. She has multiple names. So we've got, so yeah, I think the series, is it finished now? I don't know. I can't remember if it's going to be geared up for another one. It feels like it could go because there's this was the other frustrating thing. In the first book, there is a mystery about that main character, Signa's mother's death. And that still has not been resolved. We've gotten more information about what people or entities might be involved in that, but that is still very much not at rest. So I'm like, oh, are they gearing up to actually tackle that in the next one? I wouldn't, but I don't think I would read it. The first book was, in my opinion, the best one. I liked Signa and Death the most as characters. So I'm definitely done with this series, but yes, it was a 3-star read. It was still fine. It just felt a bit like I was plodding my way through it. And I probably only persisted because it was the third installment in a series. The next book that I picked up is A Sorceress Comes to Call by T. Kingfisher. So I have a love-mid relationship with T. Kingfisher. I either absolutely love their books. I think my favorites are Nettle and Bone and The Wizard's Guide to Defensive Baking. And then my least favorites were, I believe, the What Moves the Dead and the Paladin Sword something series. So I either just think they're okay or I love them. Unfortunately, this is the former. So this was a retelling of The Goose Girl, and normally I love her more fairy tale retelling books. In this one, you have a young girl who's 14 named Cordelia, and she lives with her mother, who is a sorceress. And let's just say her mother is definitely giving Mother Gothel vibes, but worse. So part of the mother's magic is that she can take over her daughter's body as if she's a puppeteer. So her daughter is awake in here, but her body and everything else is being controlled by her mother. So her mother is quite vindictive and cruel and vain, and is looking for a rich husband, and then a even richer husband for her daughter. And let's just say her mother is not afraid to get her hands bloody. So she ends up going along with her mum to this guy's house who her mother has her eyes set on, like a fly in her spider's web. And she's at a sort of crisis of conscience. Does she keep her mouth shut, or does she betray her mother and try to warn these people about her mother's nefarious intentions? The biggest issue I had was that this was so slow and long. It did not need to be as long as it was. Just the mind boggles as to how much frivolous chit chat and scenes that were in this. It should have been a novella. If it had been a novella, I probably would have enjoyed it a lot more, but because it was stretched out into a book, I was just almost bored to tears. Like, I still gave it 3 stars. I still enjoyed T. Kingfisher's writing. I still finally, once things got happening right at the end, enjoyed how everything unfolded, but it was just, my God, it needed to be edited way down. Like I said, I think this would have been better served as a novella than a full-length novel. What I loved the most about it was the older ladies. So when Cordelia goes to this new suitor for her mother's house, there is an elderly lady there. Well, elderly. She's in her 50s, so she's not elderly. Personally, I don't think that, but obviously it's got that sort of Regency era. So if you're a 50-year-old woman, then you is old. And her name was Hester, and she was fantastic. And I liked that her and her buddies, her little gaggle of older men and women, all joined forces to try and help Cordelia and deal with her mother. They weren't the best at it. They were rather inept, and fair enough. So this is another thing with the book. The magic system was a bit unexplained. It was a bit confusing. The way that they tried to, it's sort of in this world, they do know that there are sorcerers, but they believe that sorcerers' powers are very limited, sort of more superficial, camouflaging one's appearances kind of thing, casting illusions, and that there's very, very, very few of them. But then it's like, well, you've got Cordelia's mother here, who's very much not like that. So them trying to figure out how to best her, just didn't feel accurate or truthful. But yeah, it was a 3 stars. It was still fine, but I had higher expectations and hopes for this. I thought it would be more akin to Nettle and Bone and Wizard's Guide, or The Raven and the Reindeer, which is another one I absolutely loved. But yeah, it was just too slow and dull and uneventful for most of the book. And sometimes you would get frustrated at Cordelia too, even though you'd understand that she's 14 and she's terrified. But in the book, her mother kept referring to her as a 17-year-old and was trying to marry her off. So it became confusing, because sometimes you'd be like, oh, she's 17. No, she's 14. So sometimes she did feel like she was a 14-year-old girl, and sometimes she felt like she was a 17-year-old girl. So it was a bit of inconsistency there. But if you're starting with T. Kingfisher, I wouldn't start with this book. But obviously, if you're a T. Kingfisher fan, you're probably going to read it anyway. The next book I picked up was Medea by Blondine Le Calais, Nancy Pena, and Montana Kane. So this is translated, and it is a graphic novel about Medea, which is Greek mythology. Now, Medea is not a likable character, and she still remains unlikable. I think at this point, I've got to accept that nobody's retelling of Medea is actually going to be able to paint her in a good light because of her actions. If they all keep true to what she does, then you're just not going to like her. And it's the same, and I felt that same way in this. So I've given this a 3.5 stars though, because I think out of all of the Medea retellings I have read, this one was the best one. So if you want to read about Medea, maybe this one, she's a little bit less monstrous in this, but understand that she's not someone that you're going to be rooting for. She is not the good guy. At best, you might think her morally grey, but I don't know, her actions are quite reprehensible and a bit extreme in retaliation for what happened to her. I'm like, no. Like, if there's innocence involved, it's not cool, bro. Like, mete out your vengeance, but revenge on the guilty people, not the not the innocent bystanders. So the illustration style was great. Like I said, I thought they did a good job of telling the story without dragging it out too long or making it feel incomplete. So yeah, if you're into Greek mythology and you want to know about Medea, I would recommend this to you. I've decided to go on a bit of a graphic novel binge. So the next two books that I am going to read, because they're available right now, are Cat and Gamer by Waturu Nadatani and The Harrowing by Kristen Kiesling. So one is a horror book and one is sort of like a cozy contemporary. Sorry, the kitties were fighting. I'm going to probably read the horror first so I can end end on the sweeter feel-good book. Those will be the last two books for this vlog. I'm meant to be seeing my sister-in-law today, but it's dependent on whether her meeting finishes on time or goes over. Otherwise, I'll see you the next time I've read the books. Well, they do say spring showers bring the flowers. Okay, so we are back. Sorry, I'm just patting Sylvie. She's down here. Yes, she is. She's down here. She's down here. Oh, belly rubs. Belly rubs, Sylvie. So the last time I talked to you, I was going to read 2 graphic novels. I also decided to slide another book in here and 2 cookbooks as well. So I'll start with the cookbooks. I borrowed the French Market cookbook and I made this green salad from there. It's a vegetarian French cookbook, obviously. I think this kind of cookbook is best served if you are the kind of person who shops daily for ingredients. You really need to have super fresh produce and produce that's not purchased from a supermarket, because the recipes are very simple and they're designed to really showcase amazing quality produce. So the salad was, I thought it was delicious because I do like simple things, but my kids were like, this is boring. A thing I didn't like about the cookbook is there's not a picture for every recipe. And that's just a massive pet peeve of mine. I'm a very visual person and I need to see what it is that I'm making so I get an idea of what it's meant to look like when I'm done. So I did not like that about this cookbook, and it's probably not one I would purchase. Another cookbook I tried was the Vegan Vietnamese cookbook. Oh, beautiful. I have yet to try a recipe, but I think I'm going to try this tofu one. This one stood out to me. I think it had a great selection of Vietnamese vegan recipes in there, and there were pictures. The formatting felt a little bit dated to me, and once again, it's not one I would purchase, but I don't know what the recipe is like, but it was pretty. And if you're looking, I guess, for vegan Vietnamese food, this might come in handy. It had quite a lot of different types of recipes in there. Now, on to the book that I quickly slot in. I read the Sword Unbound, which was the second in the series, and it pretty much picks up where it left off with the sort of fellowship having dissolved, with members turning against each other. Obviously, I can't get to details about the plot. For me, I'd say I felt like this could have been really great. Like the characters are interesting. It still does remind me a lot of Age of Myth, very, very similar. So if you like that book, you probably do want to check this one out. But I felt like it wasn't brought together masterfully. There was a bit of lack of skill involved in tying everything together and making it effortless and captivating. It's like they've just shoved a bunch of rough, uncut gems on something and called it a finished piece. It didn't feel finessed or polished. It was very ramshackle. Like even the plot was just cobbled together in this odd way, and there was a lot of trimming that needed to be done. It was very fluffy, let's just say that. And I thought, oh, this really didn't need to be in there. It's really messed up the pacing and just the way it was bouncing between all the different characters through different points in time. Like I said, just didn't feel smooth in the transitions. I also didn't like the ending. It was very soft and insubstantial. I don't know if there is going to be a third. It's one of those endings where I thought, is this it? Or is the author going to do another one? I don't know. But I'm definitely not going to continue on with the series. A lot of things happened that annoyed me, and a lot of sort of turn of events in the story. I'm like, yeah, that doesn't really do much for me. So as entertaining as The Sword was, and it's still a good book, 3.5 stars. So I still enjoyed my time, but not enough to continue to invest more in this series if it does continue, because it very well could not, the way it ended. So then I picked up The Harrowing by Kristen Kiesling. and Rai Hickman. And this is basically a much darker, horrific version of Minority Report. So in this, you have these girls who have this psychic ability that through touch, they can see whether or not someone is going to commit a crime. And they can tell if it's a crime of passion, so it was unmeditated, or if they're sociopaths who very much do kill on purpose. And they're sort of recruited into this organization, but things aren't what they seem. And is, just like Minority Report, is it right to arrest people on the basis of they might end up doing this thing? But like I said, this is a horror graphic novel, so it leans a lot that way. And I thought it was really good. And like I said, I'm not a horror person, so I still enjoyed it. I gave it a 4 stars. I thought the illustration was great, and I liked the story plot and the characters in there and the way that everything progressed. Yeah, so that was a good one for me. And I decided to finish it off with Cat and Gamer Volume 1 by Wataru Nadatani and Zach Davison. And this is a very cozy, sweet, comforting book. You've basically got a homebody lady gamer who works a 9 to 5, but doesn't put any extra energy towards, I guess, making friends there, participating in the work culture. Instead, she rushes home every day so that she can play her favorite video games. And then one day at work, someone finds a stray kitten and goes around asking people, do you want it? Do you want it? They all say no, no, no. And then when it comes to her, she says yes. And she's quite shocked at herself for saying yes. But then obviously when she takes the cat home, she ends up treating him like a game that she needs to clock, and speed runs becoming a really conscientious cat owner. And it's very cute and it's very slice of life. It hasn't got a whole lot of plot going on. It's more about the feels, and it's adorable. It was a nice time. And another 4-star book for me. So let me recap the books that I read. So I had the French Market Cookbook, Vegetarian Recipes from My Parisian Kitchen by Clotilde Dussolier. And then I had Vegan Vietnamese by Brent, Plant-Based Recipes to Enjoy Every Day by Helen Lee. Then I had A Sorceress Comes to Call by T. Kingfisher, which I gave 3 stars. Wisteria, which is the 3rd in the Belladonna series by Adeline Grace, which I gave 3 stars. Medea by Blondine Le Calais, which I gave 3.5 stars. The Sword Unbound, the 2nd in the Lands of the Firstborn series by Gareth Ryder Hanrahan, which I gave 3.5 stars. The Harrowing by Kristen Kiesling, which I gave 4 stars. And my favorite read of this vlog, Cat and Gamer by Wataru Nadatani, which I gave 4 stars. Those were all of the books I read for this reading vlog. I'm now going to my daughter's 13th birthday party. I might put a little bit of footage in here before I end the vlog completely. But until next time, stay wild, Star Child.